a long time ago in West Africa, in a beautiful open-air marketplace. And it was full of baobab trees and tamarind trees, and all the folks there, you could smell the spices, fresh ground, and the children were running around and playing, and the sunlight was kind of hazy, and the cloth that was there was beautiful, all this handmade cloth, and there was, I could smell the barbecued goat. And onions, the best onions you've ever tasted in your life. Well, this very marketplace is where Monkey and Lizard met for the very first time. And Monkey began to tell Lizard what it was like to be a monkey.
I really do think oral storytelling is important. The word storytelling, if you listen to any radio or watch any TV, the word storytelling is extremely trendy right now. You hear it everywhere. What a great storyteller. And I agree, there are lots of different ways that stories can be told. But what I want to focus on is the art of oral storytelling. And I think it's important because it's the first one. It's the very first type of storytelling. We could speak as human beings. We could speak long before we could write. And that's how everything was passed down from one generation to the next, was orally, or just by watching, by doing. But just the fact that it's such an old art, and I think it's threatened. That's why it's important to me too. Oral storytelling is the teller and the tale. There's nothing in between. There's no apparatus, there's no props, there's no theater, there's no theatrics. It's just the person and the story that he's telling. And I just think it's an art that we just can't let die.
It chased her, and she ran. She ran and she ran until she came to the edge of a cliff. She looked back and the tiger was almost upon her, and she was desperate, and the only thing she could see was a vine growing down the face of the cliff. So she got down and took the vine in both hands, and she let herself down.
Excitement is a really important word, and I think it's tied to the word enthusiasm too. And I get it when I tell, and when I see it in kids' eyes or in any audience's eyes. I think that's, for me, that's the excitement of the listening and the excitement of the telling. And when they come together, and I know that I'm excited and the audience is excited, that's when I know that sparks are flying and it's working. I suppose I could be glib and say you either have it or you don't, or I could say practice makes perfect, or sometimes it's just luck. Everybody bombs once in a while, you tell a story that just fell flat, but I think it's just feeling the enthusiasm yourself. If the storyteller is enthusiastic and really projects that enthusiasm, then that's what the audience will receive. The story, of course, should be good as well, and well told, with all the elements of storytelling, all the pacing and the voice control and projection and all those things. But I think the most important thing is if the storyteller himself, in my case, himself, is enthusiastic.
When the shadows were in the same place they were every day, she would walk through the back door. And this time, she was so happy. She said, husband, I know that you're going to get work today. I've been looking out the window and I see some strangers coming, and you're going to get work today. I know it. And then there was a knock at the door. Oh, she smiled. Oh, she loved it when she was right.
I don't memorize. That's more theater. I don't have a script, and I take a story and read it so thoroughly or so many times that I can speak it word for word. I learn the story well. I like to say I internalize it and then tell it fresh every time. So if I've told the same story many times to different groups, and each time I tell it, it's different because it is a free original telling each time. even though it's a story that I've heard before, I've told before.
My old mother, Westwind, would come down in the morning. She'd come down from the Purple Hills, and she'd have this big sack on the back of her. I mean, so when she got to the Smiling Pond, she'd open up the sack, and all the Merry Little Breezes would tumble out, and all were so happy to be out and going around, and they would go and they would make the daisy sway, or they'd put little ripples in the pond. One time when the Farmer Brown was going to be finding where Peter Rabbit lived, he'd found the hole, and so he was going to go and be after Peter Rabbit. And the Merry Little Breezes saw that that's what he was doing. So one of the Merry Little Breezes kept taking off his hat, blowing his hat off. So he had to go off and chase the hat, so that he forgot all about it. And Peter Rabbit, of course, had a chance to get away, as Peter Rabbit always does. He always seems to have an escape route.
Oral storytelling is as personal as it gets. Of course we can read, and a good writer can put his thoughts on paper very well, and an intelligent reader can, I think, know what the writer meant. But eye contact, speaking it directly to another person, there's much more at play than just the words. There's gesture, there's facial expressions, there's all the things that are said silently. You know, the pauses, the things that are left out, whatever other way. There's so much that comes across to the listener from the teller that can't be done with any other medium.
And she was so happy. She got down off the table, she threw her arms around the Green Man. She said, "How do I ever thank you?" And the Green Man said, "Don't thank me. We could not have done this without the smithy."